Welcome inside episode 683 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and the Ottawa Senators fell 3-1 on home ice last night to the New York Rangers.
And the December 1st deadline for restricted free agent Alex Formenton is finally here at 5 p.m. He will no longer be able to sign a contract with the Ottawa Senators or anyone in the NHL.
So we will discuss the options that are on the table and why there's no contract, we believe. And, wow, what news to wake up to this morning. The Ottawa Senators have recalled number 22 from Belleville. We'll get into all that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Thursday, December 1st. The show is free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like every video by clicking the thumbs up and subscribing to the Locked On Senators channel. Be a friend, tell a friend. The road to 5,000 continues. Pilsy, the reason why I stumbled on what the date was today is because I am truly in a cycle of Groundhog Day based on what we're seeing out of this team.
Ross, if there's any sort of positivity I can give to you, though, it is December 1st. November is finally over. I mean, November is a cursed month for this Ottawa Senators team.
I mean, they got shit kicked by Vancouver on December 1st last year. And that's when we decided to start the postcast. So happy
naturally. Yeah, but it can't be, the month of December cannot be any worse than the month of November. It can't be. Like, in Ian Mendes' article today, the Ottawa Senators finished with the least amount of points in November. The Philadelphia Flyers had a 10-game losing streak and still had more points than the Sens.
And the Leafs had 25 points in the standings in November. Ottawa has, 15 on the year?
17. Come on, 17.
Yeah, don't sell them short. Jesus. I'm wearing my Belleville sweater right now because I think it's pretty consistent with what we're seeing on the ice for Ottawa. You guys got into it a lot on the postcast with Jack Richardson. So we got some bigger topics at play here today, most notably Alex Formenton, his situation. We're going to touch on that in the next segment. We want to spend an entire segment dissecting what could be going on. Frank Saravelli putting out a report that there might be interested trade candidates, which I highly doubt. However, he lists Carolina and Vegas as two potential destinations. So we'll touch on that in the next segment. But Pilsy, right when I'm making my coffee, I'm trying to have a calm morning, cool down, clear my head before the show, and I see Media Sens after saying, no, we don't need to practice today. We're going to New York City. We'll spend the night in the Big Apple. Hang out downtown Manhattan, employees only, great bar, no free ads. Tomorrow's going to be a new day. We're playing the world's most famous arena. It's all good. No, we can't do it without our elite defender. The Senators recall Nikita Zaitsev after just an amazing stint in Belleville. The team went 0-3. He's dashed 3, no points, took a penalty, and then was sick. He misses the last game, and they win.
Yeah, like, I couldn't believe it when I saw that news that he had been recalled. Like, just when you thought things were starting to move in the right direction here, and now, because DJ Smith's going to play him. If he's there, he's going to play him.
Can't help himself.
Yeah, and JBD is still a while to go, probably 2 more weeks, I think, in his recovery at least, so we're not going to have that option. I don't know.
Verbal meme. LeBron James yelling at J.R. Smith after he put the ball out of bounds. Verbal meme. Lassie is right there.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Right there. I don't know. Either that, so it's a double-edged sword. You're either saying that Zaitsev is better than your first-round pick from 3 years ago, or what else are you saying? I guess either one is bad.
What else you're saying is we're comfortable with losing.
Yeah.
Right?
Losers lose.
Because
we did the stats. We
yeah,
crunched
we
the
did
numbers.
the stats. Yeah.
We crunched the numbers. This year, the Ottawa Senators are 0-7-0 with Nikita Zaitsev in the lineup and 0-3-0 in Belleville. So that means he's played 10 games this year in the organization, no wins. Last year, 26 wins, 32 losses, 4 overtime losses. I'm not going to go through exactly the last 2 years. Overall, the Senators' record with Nikita Zaitsev in the lineup in a 182-game sample size is 71 wins, 95 losses, and 16 overtime or shootout losses. That's 71 wins in 182 games. I mean, at some point, I know it's not all on him. He's a part of the problem. He's not all of it. But when you compound that with a minus 31 rating, his Corsi numbers, his shot shares are just absolutely horrific. 40% of the shot totals when he's on the ice in his career in Ottawa. Not in a little small sample size. This is who he is as a player.
Yep.
They said they sent him down to rebuild his confidence. How the heck is his... He didn't even play well for AHL standards. Like, at least Michael Del Zotto went down there and was snapping it around, playing well. This was a complete joke.
Even Matt Murray, when they sent him down, he had a couple decent games and came back up. Like,
because you're supposed to be better when you're an NHLer and you're playing the minors, making $4.5 million. You're supposed to be the best player on the ice. He was the same as he is in the NHL, but against weaker competition. Brutal.
Yeah, Ross, we got to flip the age-old phrase, addition by subtraction. This is subtraction by addition. It's not good. Not good. And look, if the Ottawa Senators were winning moderately, like if they were doing okay, then this is a big nothing burger, right? Like we probably just mention it and move on. But the issue is this team is so below water and sunk to the bottom of the standings that the last thing you want to do is put another anvil, another weight on top of this sinking Titanic that we're still the band playing over here, Ross. Like, that is the last thing this team should be doing when you're trying to get up, you're trying to move, and you're just anchoring this team down by, yes, it's a third pairing defenseman, but there are better options. Anyone else is a better option, really. And you mentioned it, but I want to echo it. It seems like we're putting all this loss and all this negativity on Zaitsev. It's not all on Zaitsev. That's not the point that we're making. The point we're making is things are already bad, and adding a bad situation to a bad environment, guess what? It's bad. It's not going to be any better.
It's also an indictment on the process by management and coaching staff that this is the play at this time. Yeah. When things are collapsing, another verbal meme, guy walks into the room with pizza, everything's on fire. Oh, everything's fine. Or it's a little dog sitting at the table. Everything's on fire around him. He goes, no, we'll just get Z in here. It'll be all good. We'll fix things. It's all good. No, there needs to be, like, I don't know. I tweeted out last night. And again, we're not trying to like pile on one guy, but when it's consistent, when the results are consistent over a long period of time, you got to look at what the common denominator is. And I don't think that there is a coaching staff or even management team that's had a longer leash than this Ottawa Senators crew. I searched it and I didn't get a good enough picture to tweet it out, but the world's longest leash is like 3,500 feet long. Like you can run around a whole park and make sure that dog's not getting too far away. Like that's what it feels like. Like they are okay with losing. And I know we say, yeah, DJ's come in, he's built a culture of hard work. Sure. But it's also a culture of losing. Like the post-game sound that we hear from DJ is the same every single night. Yeah, we battled hard today. But we just didn't execute. Okay. Well, when the hell are you going to start executing? Because as a fan who's paying money, season seats were up, what, 60%? I'm seeing people on Twitter say, well, you think it's bad for you. I got a payment coming for my half seasons in January, and I don't want to go anymore because the team stinks. And they're not doing anything about it.
And you mentioned that losing culture. Maybe that's option 3 why Lassie isn't being brought up, right? Like, you don't want these young guys to be brought up and be like, okay, you're just going to be molded into this culture that has finished in the basement of the standings for the past 4 or 5 years. Like, maybe that's a part of it too, is let's try to get these guys a positive attitude in Belleville. They can build something, and then the next crop that comes up can have at least some positive outlook here. But that's not going to happen right now.
Yeah, really frustrating times right now for the Ottawa Senators. There are some silver linings that we'll touch on. Our boy, the mythical creature, Philip Nordberg, scoring his first goal in the Allsvenskan. Really seems like so little so far away, hey? That 3-1 loss. Like, I guess we'll point people towards the postcast because we do have a busy show today. But give me your initial impression now that you've had like 12 hours to sleep on it of that loss. Because for me, it was like first period was good. And then after that, like once they gave up the lead, it never really felt like they were back in it.
And that's the biggest issue I have with that game, Ross, because remember, I talked about it. My key to victory was if the Rangers get a lead, don't let it get you down. The Rangers are known for blowing leads this season. In 4 consecutive games, they had the lead, and in 3 of them, the outlier is up against the Senators, but in the 3 earlier games, they blew those leads and they lost those games. One of those games, they lost to the Anaheim friggin' Ducks, and we all saw how bad that team is. Yaroslav Halak comes in without a win all year, 5 losses, and DJ Smith couldn't even use the phrase, "Oh, we got hit by a hot goalie." Halak was not playing well. Like, this team should have been able to beat him.
He had an .886 save percentage coming into last night's game, and they didn't even really test him. He looked so shaky in the first period, looking behind him on little wrist shots, like not square to shooters, bad rebound control, and Ottawa just could not take advantage. Yep. And what's worse than that, they finally had like at least offensive zone time with the goalie pulled, still weren't able to score. However, they didn't give up a goal. Woo! Yeah. They just pass around the perimeter. There is no like high danger scoring chances with like the pressure up. They needed a goal with like 2.5 minutes left. They had the power play. I'm surprised DJ didn't pull the goalie with the power play, make it a 6-on-4.
I'm pretty sure he didn't he?
They waited right until the end, like maybe with the last 5 seconds or so. I would have done it right at the beginning. I want to say there was like 3.5, 4 minutes. You're down 2. Like if you're down 1, sure, have the power play, especially with how many empty netters you give up. But when you're down 2, let's hit the gas. Carolina pulled their goalie with 5.5 minutes left, down 3, and scored 3 times. Like, I don't know. I'm not the kind of guy. I'm not Patrick Waugh where he pulled it with like 8 minutes left in a game. But I think that if you need 2 and you're on the power play, that 4.5 minute mark is where I start to itch closer to the trigger. Now, alternatively, the other team can ice the puck with no penalty and you know, kind of just aim, and if they hit the net, cool. But that's how I would play. Get that 6-on-4 going.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot to be in because I would agree with you on like most of that, the theory of that, but I don't love 6-on-4 power plays because there's just too many guys in the zone and you get bunched up and you can't get proper spacing and you can't really get it done here. But when you're the Ottawa Senators and you're down by 2, you're in the basement of the standings, like you got to start taking some risks. Like if this was a meaningful game up against 2 teams battling for a wild card spot, maybe you don't take that risk. But the Senators have to pull out all the stops just to try to win 1 game at a time here, to try to claw back to some decency, to have some respect in this league. Like, Ross, other teams are literally penciling the Ottawa Senators as giving their starting goalie a night off. They don't give a damn who their backup is. We saw Stolarz as the goalie for the Ducks. They're just like, well, I mean, sure, it didn't work out in the Ducks' favor, but I'm saying the mindset for every team facing Ottawa is, hey, starting goalie, you're going to play about 60 more games, take the night off, and then we're playing Ottawa again later. Yeah, you could probably take that one off too. So what is it like if you're the players of the Ottawa Senators? That's got to motivate you to be like, wow, these guys are putting another backup goalie against us. Let's absolutely destroy them. Let's get our points tonight. Nope, can't happen.
I'm looking up right now, and Ottawa's faced a backup in about half the games they've played this year.
Yeah, like, and not because of back-to-back situations or situations where you typically would put a backup in.
No, there's an enormous amount. I'm actually stay tuned. Tomorrow, Locked On Senators, I will have
we need to do, we did it the 1 year, Ross. We need to bring it back. The backup goalie counter for each game. Because there's no team that faces more backups than the Ottawa Senators. I'm convinced. There can't be.
Exactly. All right, we'll get into more on that tomorrow. It's also going to be a rare Friday game day, just like last week, but this time it's a Friday night game. The lights are bright. The Big Apple in Manhattan. The Senators will take on the New York Rangers and then come right back home to take on Erik Karlsson and the San Jose Sharks. Of course, we'll have postcasts after each game, and they're officially going to be brought to you by a very special local sponsor. But today's episode is brought to you by, yes, it's Shawarma Palace, our favorite eatery in the Ottawa area. I have a friend at work who's just going to Ottawa right now. I sent them around to a bunch of different restaurants, and they already messaged me yesterday and said, I went to Shawarma Palace. It was my first stop for lunch, and I've never had such a fulfilling meal that was so reasonably priced and so delicious. She went to the one, Bank and Gladstone, right down in Centertown, right by Baseball Town. And then you can also go to the one on Rideau Street. That's where you're most likely to find Pilsy and I when we step foot in the nation's capital. Also, Carlton Food Court, Orleans. You're never too far away from a Shawarma Palace. However, if you're too lazy to go to a Shawarma Palace, but you're still hungry, Uber Eats. You can exclusively get Shawarma Palace on Uber Eats delivered directly to your door. Get the platter if you're going to do that, because you may as well get 2 meals out of it for a reasonable cost. And make sure that you're getting the extra garlic sauce, because that is just what separates Shawarma Palace from anyone else in the entire industry. It's the best shawarma you're going to get in the entire continent of North America. Is North America a continent, Pilsy?
North America is a continent. You got it, Ross.
All right. So that's where we're at right now with Shawarma Palace, the best shawarma in the continent of North America. So go check them out right now. Dine at any of Shawarma Palace's 9 Ottawa locations. Eat like royalty at Shawarma Palace. We always talk about how game days taste better at Shawarma Palace. They do. However, when you're feeling down after a loss, you can probably tell in my inflection, I'm not feeling great today. But Shawarma Palace is always there to pick you up. So go get them today and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. And make sure you're sending in a photo at Send Central on Twitter, lockedon.senators on Instagram. Tag us and tag Shawarma Palace. Shawarma Palace Ottawa. You can find their handle on Instagram. It's Shawarma Palace. Eat like royalty at Shawarma Palace.
And this episode is also brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. Ross, we mentioned it. We haven't done so well betting betting for the Ottawa Senators lately. But the good thing is, with BetOnline, it's not just money line and winners and losers. There's so many other things you can bet on. Brady Tkachuk shot totals is basically guaranteed money at this point. So if you want to cheer on the Sens without having to worry about winning and losing, take a look at some fun props. There's all the best odds, news, scores, totals, unders. Maybe you want to hit the overs more often here so that any goal that's scored you can get excited about. That's how desperate we are here. But you can do it all at the #1 trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's BetOnline. And it's not just hockey. Thursday night football tonight. There's basketball going on. The World Cup's still happening, even though Canada is they're playing right now. I don't know how they're doing, but they are out of it. But you can still get in on the action and get some skin on the games where Canada aren't playing with our friends at BetOnline. So go to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends in action. Guys, it's betonline.net where the game starts.
This music's honestly just depressing me at this point.
Ross, before we get into this segment, I want to just pinpoint how you've stretched how good Shawarma Palace is, like ever so slightly. First, best shawarma place in Ottawa. Best food place in Ottawa. Best food in the country. And now you've gone, it is the best shawarma place in all of North America. So if you guys aren't convinced now, go to every other shawarma place in North America and see if it holds up to the Palace. We'll see.
Prove me wrong. You can't. You won't.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. You know what isn't awesome? The situation the Ottawa Senators find themselves in right now with a restricted free agent Alex Formenton, a guy who showed so much potential on the ice last year, 18 goals as a 21-year-old, a guy who was a second-round pick, came up through the ranks, was unbelievable the year we were in Belleville as a second-line scorer. I believe he had 27 goals that year and was the fastest player in the AHL. Still hasn't played all year this year, and he still leads the Senators over the last 2 years in shorthanded goals. Actually, the Senators only have one shorthanded goal this year, that Mathieu Joseph breakaway 3-on-5. Alex Formenton had 5 shorthanded goals just himself last year. But of course, this goes way beyond what he does on the ice. The investigation continues for the 2018 World Junior team, a team that Alex Formenton was a member of, and he just so happened to be the only player unsigned who was on that team. And it looks like that has to be playing a role here. It has to be bigger than on-ice contract, because even though he scored 18 goals as a 21-year-old, I still think the ask couldn't be astronomical for his next contract.
Yeah, especially on an Ottawa Senators team that has the cap space. I believe they have right around $6.5 million, and he fits into their core. He's someone that would look great on the third line here. So it's very obvious that this isn't a strict hockey situation. Like, sure, Pierre Dorian's going to spin it that way, saying they can't come to terms on money. This isn't a William Nylander or whatever situation where the sides are millions of dollars apart. There's not that much in play. So yes, it's obvious that the Hockey Canada situation has something to do with it. However, even though it seems that obvious, I'm not about to sit here and point fingers and black and white define that Alex Formenton is guilty, because stop me if you've heard this before, but there is no new news. So we're not accusing Formenton. We're not guaranteeing that there's something going on here. We're just saying it's pretty clear that there's more to the situation than the public eye is aware of. And clearly it is not strictly a hockey situation here. And time is running out. We are recording at 11:53 a.m. Eastern time. There's about 5 hours until that deadline hits. And with no new news, with nothing changing, there's no reason to believe that Alex Formenton will be signed by the Ottawa Senators or any other NHL team this season.
So he would only have to be able to be signed by the Ottawa Senators. However, they could trade his rights as well. What we were wrong about, though, I didn't realize that a qualifying offer expires on July 15th. So he cannot just sign. And that's something that we thought he had the opportunity.
Yeah, we were wrong about that. Yeah, not cap experts.
Even though it would have been a two-way contract, $780,000, like, he's definitely worth on ice more than that with his potential. But it really is, it's strange. Like, Evolving Hockey, and this is from Ian Mendes' article, saying that they have him as like a 2-year deal around 1.7. I could see it going as high as like 3 by 2.2, something like that. However, and that 5 shorthanded goals, by the way, led the entire National Hockey League, not just Ottawa. But what I don't understand is Frank Saravelli put out an article yesterday, and in that was saying that there's teams that could trade for him, canvassing the league. He's saying that Carolina and Vegas. I don't understand.
Well, I think you need to look at the context of how he was wording that, Ross. He cited Carolina as a team that could be interested, looking at the fact that they've taken guys who have been outcasted for off-ice stuff before in Tony DeAngelo. So I think what he's getting at is this is a team that has gone this route before and is comfortable doing that if it makes sense statistically for their team. So that's why he's labeled them as a potential landing spot. The Vegas one, I wasn't really into that one because they don't have cap space. And
well, what they do have is now they raised eyebrows is what Saravelli's saying, is that yesterday they traded a defenseman, Zach Hayes, who I guess is just in the system, but a contract for future considerations. So they were at the 50-player maximum for contracts, and now they have flexibility there. So they would have to be money in, money out.
Yeah, but does that have to do with where's Laurent Brossoit at? I know he was working his way up, and he's got a cap hit of, I think, 2.7 million or something. So are they making room for that?
I'm not sure. I can't.
Yeah, so that would be one thing I would look at. But look, why would this happen today, hours before the deadline?
Right.
Like, this is something that would have been worked upon so much earlier. Once again, there's no new news, so nothing has changed in this story that teams are now like, oh, now we feel like it's acceptable to make this move. I don't know what's going to happen. And the thing too, Ross, is what has Alex Formenton been doing this whole time? Like, he's making $0 right now. No one is paying him. He probably, again, this is me assuming, I'm not a legal expert, but he probably has immense lawyer fees right now. You would assume that he's prepared for that, and that's going to be expensive. And he has no one interested. Like, you would think he would already have spots lined up overseas. I'm looking at the KHL as the most likely spot that he would already be ready to go to, because clearly nothing is happening here. So I just think we're going to see this deadline come and go. There's no reason for me to think any other reason here. And it's crazy because he is the only unsigned RFA player in the entire league right now.
Yeah. And we've seen it go down to the wire before. William Nylander, of course, completely different circumstances.
Very different, yeah.
He waited until, I want to say, like 4:57.
Yeah, it was just before the deadline. Yep.
And that actually looks like a steal of a contract. But when it comes back to Alex Formenton, like, I don't know. Like, and we saw, like, the reason why a trade's not going to happen. Like, everyone saw the very fair criticism that went to the Boston Bruins when they signed Mitchell Miller, who, thank God, the North Dakota Fighting Hawks said, beat it, get out of here, when they found out about the bullying and the racism that was in his past. Like, the accusations towards that team are disgusting. Like, if you read the deposition, it's gross. Again, there's never been names, and I'm starting to think less and less that the names are going to come out, unfortunately. I don't know why. I feel like...
Well, in Sarah Valley's article, he mentioned that Darren Dreger said the NHL is basically done their investigation, but what does that mean, right? The NHL and legal entities of Ontario and Canada are two separate things, right? So I don't know where this is at, and I don't know when it's going to be resolved. Certainly not going to be within a few hours. I could feel pretty confident saying that.
100%. And like at the start of the year, Gary Bettman was saying, yeah, the investigation is closer being done than starting. But yeah, still nothing.
But that is such a bland statement, like obviously.
Yeah, no question. So it's something that we'll keep our eye on. And tomorrow, maybe something will come out. But usually, like with RFAs, like with Brady, we heard he was training with the U.S. national team program.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right? With Formenton, like, where is he? Is he training with his old junior A team? Like, I have no idea what's going on. We know the London Knights have Logan Maya too, so they'd probably be fine with having anybody hanging out with them. But when you look at what's going on with, like, is he skating? Is he doing anything? I don't know. Anyways, very, very strange, would you say unprecedented situation? I don't think we've ever seen anything like this.
Definitely unprecedented, yeah, or not to my knowledge. I can't think of anything like this. And it's a time, too, that we need to take a look at this situation and pull ourselves away from the sports world. I still feel so terribly for the victim here because this is a drawn-out public process. Again, from what we know, public knowledge, there hasn't been any sort of settlement. There hasn't been any sort of conclusion to this. So this is a part of that victim's everyday life that is still not resolved and still hasn't been dealt with and handled with. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the victim, the victim's family, that they're getting support right now. And I think that's the thing we need to wrap this up on, Ross, is that this is a very real thing. This isn't just some movie script story that we're following along with a professional athlete here. They're real people that were affected in very negative ways here. And we're hoping that for their sakes that things are going all right and they can see improvement after, again, what you mentioned. Just when you look at the details of this case, it's absolutely disgusting. So let's hope that for their sake, things are at least improving.
Very well said. And I'd like to echo that we are thinking about the victim in this situation. As for the RFAs that have never signed and ended up sitting out the year, it's a pretty short list. Only Jesse Puljujärvi and Julius Honka are the two players.
But Puljujärvi did go over to Finland, right? And I think didn't Honka as well?
Yeah, and Honka hasn't played an NHL game since.
Yeah, so
I'm intrigued at what's going to happen in terms of on ice or how this situation is going to play itself out. But again, hopefully for the victim's sake, there's a conclusion sooner rather than later, and they can do their best to get the help they need and move on as best they can, of course, with the supports that should be, of course, paid for by Hockey Canada and whoever the perpetrators are in this situation. All right, so we'll have more on that tomorrow on Locked On Senators when we have some sort. There's a conclusion one way or another. Once 5 p.m. passes, there's a conclusion. Is it the full one? No. Is it what we want? No, because we want to know the entirety of the situation and judge accordingly. But right now, it's 5 p.m. If Alex Formenton does not sign with Ottawa or sign and trade, he will not play in the NHL this year. And the Senators, though, would retain his rights going forward into next season. All right, after a quick break, we haven't touched on the fact that an injured Ottawa Senator is back skating. Could Josh Norris return to the Senators lineup sooner rather than later? And Darren Dreger pouring some cold water on the Nikita Zaitsev slanders from earlier on in this episode. We're going to get to that right after a quick word from one of our favorite sponsors right here on the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day. All right, Pilsy. So, Josh Norris is back skating by himself. The timeline was a little flimsy when we found out he wasn't going to get surgery.
yeah.
At this point, with not much to play for, how patient would you be with bringing Josh Norris back?
Pilsy preaching patience, patient Ross. Like there can be no rush at all because what have we seen? They brought Shane Pinto back arguably too early. And it was very quick that his shoulder popped out on a non-contact play, and he's out for the rest of the season again.
So face-off play.
Yep, and that's where Josh Norris injured himself on this situation. And not only that, but Josh Norris injured that same shoulder, 2 separate injuries. So, like, I would say that is a very delicate situation there, and there's no real reason to bring him back before he's 110%, or as DJ Smiths would say, 1,000% ready, because that's just crazy. So I don't anticipate we'll see Josh Norris at all this season. And if we do, maybe it's just a handful of games at the end of the year just to get the juices flowing. Like it's not going to be anything substantial here.
And we talked to Angus Crookshank last summer, right? Like having a date on the calendar to chase gave him motivation on days where he didn't feel like he had a whole lot of it, right? When you're shut down for the year and you know it, like that's got to be tough, because even just an off season is long. We know because the Senators haven't made the playoffs since we were in school together.
We know the off season, yes.
Right? So that's long enough as is. You add another 6 months to that, that must be tough for your motivation each and every day to go grind in the gym.
Especially after you just signed a big contract. Like you want to get motivated and you want to earn that and you want to prove it.
Oh, that's so brutal, man. I hate that.
But the thing is, with rehab, again, Brandon Piller, not a doctor, but with rehab, there's so many variables. Like it can go person to person, injury to injury. Like there are a million different variables that come into play here. So like for a perfect example, Brad Marchand has hip surgery, which is one of the craziest ones you can have as an athlete, especially a hockey player. People are like, he's not coming back till Christmas. He's been lighting it up for weeks, and we're only at December 1st right now. So that's what I'm saying is there are so many different things that can come into play that maybe Josh Norris is 1,000% in mid-March and he can come back, right? I don't know. But what I'm saying is you cannot risk putting him in too early at all. There's no excuse for that because this team, hate to break it to you, they ain't making playoffs.
What?
Yeah, sorry, Ross.
You serious?
I am so serious, unfortunately. Yeah, very serious.
If I had to make you guess, which I've been known to do once or twice,
okay.
Best penalty differential on the Ottawa Senators this season, who would your guess be? So that's
like taking drawn versus drawn?
Exactly.
Timmy.
No. Timmy's -1 this year.
Really? Huh.
The answer might surprise you, but I think you're gonna like it.
Claude Giroux?
No, he's close. He's tied for third with Jake Sanderson.
All right, that's it. No more guesses.
Tyler Mott is number 1.
Okay, yeah.
He's drawn 10 penalties and only taken 2. However, so that's a +8 net differential.
My guy.
Josh Norris is number 2 on this team, and he played 5 games. He drew 6 penalties and only took 1.
Yeah, there was one game where Josh Norris drew, I think, 4 penalties in one game. It was insane. They were just going after him, but
it just shows he's like, sometimes you watch Josh Norris, it's almost like jack of all trades, master of none, maybe except his shot on the power play. But then like you look into the numbers and what he does in transition, the way he's able to not give the puck away like some of the other players on this team, he is so valuable. And I think we really kind of maybe not undermined it. We did a breaking news video for it when we found out the extent of the injury, and it's just so brutal, man. Like just coming into his own, 23 years old. I guess the silver lining is we learned that Timmy's pretty good with Brady and Giroux in this situation too. But to end off today's show, Darren Dreger saying that the Nikita Zaitsev call-up is strictly depth and likely just for the weekend. Sure. I mean, yeah, sure. I don't think DJ can help himself.
No, that's the thing.
I don't think he plays tomorrow, but I think after tomorrow, DJ will be like, oh, back-to-back, Holden's going to come out. You're going to get 22 back in. And then after Saturday, he's going to go 22, battled hard. He battled hard. He stayed in the lineup. Fans, suck on that one, would you? Like, I don't know. It just feels like a slap in the face, knowing how much the fans have just seen enough of him, seen enough of the same old, like, let's get a change. For them to have the month they did after just focusing so much on, we need to start well, we need to start well, we need to start well.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't. And now they're like, okay, well, you know what? We suck without him too, so we like him. So why don't we just suck with him instead? That's a message as a fan that I'm getting from this.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like I have no words. Like there's not much more I can say on this. It's just disappointing. And that is like, seeing that tweet, waking up, like you mentioned, is just like, well, here we go.
Here we go. It's another busy month for the Ottawa Senators. And, oh my goodness. Does it even matter? Like, obviously we're watching prospects and there will be a sale of the team. And I truly believe that the sale is going to make big changes in terms of who the decision makers are for the on-ice product and more. Do you agree with that? Do you think the owners are going to come in and make a statement right away?
Yeah, especially if Ryan Reynolds is one of the owners. Ross, I've been watching his TV show, the Wrexham soccer team one. First off, recommended to everyone. It's very interesting, and they put their fingers all over that team, and I'm only their fingerprints all over that team. I'm only 3 episodes in, and it's very interesting to see what has been affected by them taking over. Now, this is very different. I think there were majority owners of Wrexham where this Ryan Reynolds would be such a minority, but still, just having that culture and trying to bring something fresh to this team is something this franchise desperately needs.
Certainly. Well, let's leave it there for today. That's our show. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Oh no, we suck again.
No doubt. Hey, we pulled that up in the postcast last night, so we'll point everyone in that direction. Hey, misery loves company. We appreciate each and every one of you for listening to the Locked On Senators podcast, for being a friend and telling a friend, for subscribing, for leaving a 5-star review. We're motivated to keep going. We've got some great local sponsors that we want to thank: Shawarma Palace and Farm to Fork Delivery, number 2. Go check them out. Soup15 promo code. We'll talk about them more next week. But also, I think we can announce it, Pillsy, because it is December, and we are officially partnered with the Glebe Central Pub. I don't know if you've been to the Glebe Central Pub on Bank Street, just past the Queensway, right past Catherine. It's between 1st and 2nd Avenue. You got to go check it out. So they are going to be the official sponsor of the postcast. We'll have our Glebe Central standouts now for our Sens standouts. So we're really looking forward to partnering with them, and go check them out. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. And maybe we'll do a live show there, Pilsy. What do you think about that?
I would love to do a live show. Like, that's something that when we started the podcast, we always thought about. And now we got the Roadcaster, we got the soundboard, we got the mics. You guys saw we were doing shows in the Levitan studios. So we want to bump that up to doing live shows at Glebe Central Pub. And it'd be awesome if we can get that together and have fans there. Everybody's having some pints, having some good food. And they have a bus that goes right from Glebe Central Pub to the CTC. So that would be a lot of fun. That would be a whole different spin on the pilgrimage that we're used to doing. So definitely get your eyes peeled for that, because that's something we've been talking about. And keep February 14th, or is it 14th or 17th?
17th. We don't want to
February 17th.
Hey, we don't want to pull everyone away from their significant others on Valentine's Day.
No. So keep February 17th penciled on your calendar. That's Chris Neal's retirement jersey night, and that's probably the next time Ross and I are going to make the journey to Ottawa. So keep that in mind, guys.
Yes, and for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.